71-year-old Companies Act 2013 is about to be amended, and some of the key amendments have to do with related party transactions. For instance, the Act proposes that RPTs be approved by shareholders via a special resolution, that is, 75% majority. The amendment proposes to dilute it to an ordinary resolution or simple majority. But SEBI's Clause 49 mandates a special resolution as well.
Will you align with what the amended Companies Act will be, or will SEBI's always be a higher standard?
You are talking of a hypothetical situation when the bill gets passed by both the houses of the parliament. I would like to answer this in the following way, that we must understand that for listed company, and it's a settled law, for listed companies, SEBI is empowered to bring in something which is stricter than what the general law provides. So the type of companies we regulate, we can impose even more strict guidelines, and whether on any specific thing as the law is passed in future by the parliament, what will happen, I can't say. We do believe that related party transaction is an area where misuse was happening. Abusive related party transactions were happening in this country. We have taken action in certain cases. So we will look at it once the law is finally passed by the parliament, and if we feel, if the SEBI board feels that still we have to do something different from the law, we will take a view at that stage.
So you're saying that there is a chance that you might maintain a higher standard than what the Companies Act requires when it comes to listed companies? Because
no,
RPTs
that's
have been a very sticky,
That's not a matter
area
of chance. That's the settled law in this country.
Yes, no, I'm not
It has been settled by the Supreme Court that if at all there is a need, SEBI is within its rights, SEBI board is within its right to prescribe something which is much more stringent than what the law provides.
Yeah.
SEBI cannot do anything which is against the law.
No, I get that. I mean is chance that your board and you may think that it's necessary to impose a higher standard.
That conclusion you are free to draw. I am only saying that, I was saying two things. One is that the law is settled, we can do this, and number two, related party transactions are an area of concern for us.
I want to come to a set of regulations that the SEBI board has approved changes to, and that's the delisting regulation. You have been asked this question a few times in the last few months. I'm going to ask it to you yet again. There was hope that when SEBI started out to rework the delisting regulations, that you might even go the full radical way by rethinking the reverse book building method. That was put to death when your discussion paper came out and you said the reverse book building method is here to stay. What you have done in the new delisting regulations, based on what the board papers were, is that you have imposed a new requirement or threshold of a 25% public participation in the delisting. I understand why you've done it. I've called it the Fresenius Kabi cure. Okay? You may not agree with the phraseology, but that's what I've called it. But this, most bankers and companies say, will make delisting impossible to do.
Our aim in SEBI was not to make delisting easier or more difficult. If people wanted to get a message that SEBI is keen to make the whole process easier, that was not the intention at all. The whole intention was that there were certain amounts of anomalies in the system which were being misused by two sets of people on two different ends of the spectrum. And our aim has been that we remove these anomalies, we remove these bad practices. And what were those bad practices? On the one end was a set of people who were able to capture a portion of the public shareholding and then demand an unusually high price. So your understanding of what we have done on the reverse book building, I'll like to clarify that I don't agree with that, because earlier the situation was that any price at which maximum number of shares were offered, that becomes the determining price. So a small set of people could corner certain shares and then they could have an undue influence over the promoter. They could force him.
Right.
That has been done away.
Now you have to cross 90%.
Now we have to cross 90%.
Right.
So this manipulation is not possible. So the reverse book building process has been made through this mechanism where this sort of a manipulation can't be done. So the feedback I have got from many people is that they are happy with it. Another thing which you perhaps you might have taken note, but you didn't mention in your opening remark, is earlier we had a two-stage process for delisting. You acquire, you cross 90, you come back to 75, then you go back again. We have removed that. We have made it now a single-stage process. The new area where you are echoing the sentiments of some people who may have brought it to your notice is this requirement of 25%. Now, if you look at data in the past, there have been cases where people have been able to get away with delisting by having 2 or 4 or 6 shareholders coming in. I don't think it is a fair arrangement. That should not be permitted. The question is 25% possible? And the answer is yes, because this 25% is not of the entire public shareholding. This is 25% of those shareholdings which have been dematted.
Yes.
And in our primary market advisory committee, people came out with this. This was the only objection there, that don't do it for the entire shareholding, do it only for dematted, and everybody was comfortable. And you know, in our advisory committee, there is representation from all the sides. So that is why we have provided. However, I am on record having saying that this is one matter on which we have received representations, and in due course we are willing to look at it.
Okay, I'll tell you why, because this is the data investment banker shared with me, which is that mostly in the delistings that have taken place so far, they've noticed that the public participation has been south of 10%, so less than 10%. And so therefore they said to be able to double that and more to meet a SEBI threshold might be very difficult, but like you've said, you're open to reconsideration. We'll take that as an encouraging sign of potential change.
Let me clarify this. I'm open to reconsideration in due course, that I stand committed, but let me also, the example you gave was south of 10%, but does it only indicate that 10% should be the limit? Does it also not indicate that there was no pressure on the promoter to reach out to more investors?
Maybe.
Because they were not reaching out. So that is our understanding. They were not trying to reach out to people. So we are now saying that you please reach out to people, get some more percentage. And also, while you have got examples of less than 10%, I have got examples where 44% people have
your data would be more solid, sir, than the investment banker data that I got.
One example where 44% of public shareholders tendered their shares. So my understanding is that if somebody is making an honest attempt to reach out, it's a possibility.
So what should we understand then from your response, Mr. Sinha, that there is a likelihood of this 25% threshold being revised, or that there isn't any at this point in time, at least in the near term?
What we are looking at is that the promoter must honestly reach out to all the public shareholders.
I get that.
Getting this 25% offering was one way to indicate that or to ensure that. Maybe in due course we will come out with some other formulation.
But so due course?
Due course, yes. Because
due course means a few months, a few weeks, a few years?
The regulation has not been notified, so why are we talking?
Okay. That gives me my answer. Okay. That gives me my answer. Mr. Sinha, what's on your agenda for 2015?
Oh, lot.
Give us an idea of what's to come from SEBI this year, sir.
At this stage, we are concentrating on e-IPO.
Right. You put out a discussion paper for that.
And we have reached out to SMEs and to the startups. And the startups, after my interaction with them, I discovered that they have an entirely different set of issues and their expectations are entirely different. So maybe we'll have to do something different for them. So we have just started the dialogue. So the whole aim of SEBI, to answer your question in one simple sentence, is to ensure that corporates in India who are in need of raising capital, how we can make that easy in India.
And that's going to be the focus in 2015 for SEBI?
Yes.
All right. Mr. Sinha, we'll leave you there. I know we've kept you longer than earlier intended. Thank you so much for your time and your patience, sir.
Thank you.